All right, y'all, we're gonna get started here in a moment. Yeah. All right, well, welcome Shabbat Shalom, y'all. We're gonna start now on page 128 of your prayer books. Hine ma tovu manaim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manaim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Welcome to Repro Shabbat. That stands for Reproductive Shabbat. This is a national program, so every synagogue that's observing this day is observing it today. And so across the country, a bunch of synagogues are observing Repro Shabbat. We have a guest speaker. Thank you, Rose. The state director of Planned Parenthood will come up. They'll come up shortly. And we also have a few poems we're going to have read as well for Repro Shabbat. And so I hope everyone just sit tight and we'll get through it. Anyways, so we're moving over to page 138 for Lachad Odi. And we're going to recite paragraphs 1, 5, and 9. When we arrive on paragraphs 9, I invite everyone to stand up and face the entrance as we greet the Shabbat bride. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Hishmiyanu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem l'teferet v'letila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, Kiva ore kumi ori, uri shir daberi, Kivod Adonai alek negila. Lecha dodi Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Please rise. Boi v'shalom ateret ba'al, gam b'smicha uv'tzolam, toch emunei am segulam, boi chala, boi chala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. You may be seated. We're now moving to Shalom Aleichem on page 142. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi-Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi-Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seichem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi-Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Before we continue on to the Chasigash on page 144, I'm going to ask Cheryl up here to read a poem for us.
Shabbat Shalom. A prayer for those denied abortion care, written by Rabbi Danya Rutenberg. May you be safe. May a canopy of safety and peace, health, and care cover you, despite everything you are now forced to endure. May you find ways to own your body, your agency, and your dignity, despite everything the government has taken from you. May you be surrounded by a community of caring hands and loving hearts who can hold you. May you always know you are holy, sacred, and your will, your autonomy matters and should be respected as such. May you be protected in all ways, able to weather the material, physical, emotional, and spiritual hardships that come your way. May you find within yourself resilience, strength, and bravery. May you know you are not alone.
Thank you, Cheryl. Itkada v'yitkada shemei rabba Belma divrach cheotei v'yamlik malchutei B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael Bagala, Bagala, Uvizman Kariv, V'imaru, Amen. Yeheshme Rabba Mevarach, Le'alam Ulam Me'almaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yibromam v'yitnasem v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitala shemei kudusha b'richu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'al miran be'almam V'imaru, amen. Turn to 146, and I invite you to rise with me. Lie, 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 Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach, Le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach, Le'olam va'ed. You may be seated. Let's read together the English on the bottom part of 149. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it, we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, Mariv Aravim. I'd like to invite Charity up here to read a poem for us.
Shabbat Shalom. Threshold by Maggie Smith. You want a door you can be on both sides of at once. You want to be on both sides of here and there, now and then, together in, what do we call the life we wish back? The old life? The before? Alone. But any open space may be a threshold, an arch of entering and leaving. Crossing a field, wading through nothing but timothy grass, imagine yourself passing from and into, passing through doorway after doorway after doorway.
Thank you, Charity. We're now going to read together the English on page 151 in that bottom part together. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love, this is the holiest of your works, in the living language that gives it form. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Now moving to the Shema on page 153. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malachuto, Leolam Vaed. And 5-4. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol avacha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meyodecha v'hayu hadevarim ha'elem asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinartam levarnecha b'divar dabam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvletecha hava derech ushofbecha ukumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beineinecha uktaftam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha lema'an tizkeru v'asitem et chol mitzvotai v'tem kidoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem meretz Mitzrayim liot lachem leElohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem emet. Now move to page 158. Lie, 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 mi chamocha ba'alim Adonai, mi kamocha Nedar b'kodesh, Norah tehilot, osei efelem, Norah tehilot, osei efelem, lai 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 lie, 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 lie. The word of Shamru on 162. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. B'nei Uvein, B'nei Yisrael, Oti leolam, V'shamru B'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki shechet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat V'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'im shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Now moving to the Amidah on page 164. When you arrive there, I invite you to stand with me. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagita ilatecha. Adonai sefatai tiftach Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VaHaNorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chaftei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Geulah L'Ifnei B'neihem, L'man Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ezra, Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav L'Yoshia, Mashiach HaRuach U'Mari HaKashem, Mechakel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim. Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emunato, Lishonei Afar, Michamocha B'al Geruros, U'Midom Melach, Melech Mevi, U'Mechayem, U'Masmir Yeshua, V'Neman Atah L'Chayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mekayeh HaKol. We will now continue silently until page 180. You may be seated whenever you like. To help me recite Osei Shalom, I'm going to invite Autumn up here. Autumn joined the tribe last week and finished her Beit. And so anyways, I want to congratulate Autumn. She spent a well over a year working on it, and now she's a member of the Jewish people. And so in honor of that, we're going to sing Osei Shalom together. Osei Shalom Bimroman, Uyasei Shalom Aleinu, Ve'yakol Yisrael, v'tevel, v'imru, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'yakol Yisrael, ve'yakol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, v'imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'yakol Yisrael. 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 Well, Mazel tov, Adam, and welcome. Okay, I'm now gonna invite Rose up here to speak to us about what's going on with reproductive rights. And Rose is the state director of Planned Parenthood. Thank you, Rose, for coming and joining us tonight. You don't want to miss anything.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. My name is Rose O'Hara Jolly, they, them pronouns. I am the Alaska State Director at Planned Parenthood Alliance Advocates. I was born in Florida, lived in Brooklyn, moved to Cantwell, then Fairbanks, and now as of this year, I have defected from the interior to Anchorage. So I am happy to be here. I actually didn't start in this. I was a kindergarten teacher and a disability rights advocate for kids. But I feel like this is the same because I feel like your autonomy of your own body doesn't stop when you are able to become pregnant, just the same way I think kids deserve to make their own choices as well and have the education and resources available to them. So a lot of people are like, that's a jump. And I'm like, no, I think everyone deserves to have the best life they want. I am always happy to be here because it is intimidating because there are often people here that have more experience, expertise, and time in this field than I do. So puts me on my toes. But I am here to talk about abortion and reproductive health care access, which nationwide is a heavy topic, but Alaska is having a very different experience and landscape. So as of today, I believe it is 22 states that have lost all or a significant amount of abortion access since the Supreme Court decided that it was no longer a federal right, but up to the states. That number and how that access is constantly changing. Our Planned Parenthood affiliate, so the way Planned Parenthood works is, my boss does not like that I use this example, but like McDonald's where there's like a franchise. So we have a national office and they create health center standards for our health centers and they accredit us, but we are all independently run. And our affiliate is the largest in the nation, and it is Alaska, Hawaii, Washington, Idaho, Indiana, and Kentucky. And that, so also I exist in all time zones, which is very fun. And often the question is why? And so the reason for that is twofold. One, our former CEO was tenacious, and as pre-Roe falling, different trap laws and other things were happening across these states. She was like, absolutely not, and we're gonna leverage the power of states like Washington, who have supportive governments that will help cover costs and big donors to make sure that other states don't lose access. But in a post-Roe world, it is incredibly helpful because a lot of times when legislation and things happen here and within 30 minutes I'm on the news talking about it from an informed standpoint, it is not because I'm brilliant, it's because we already fought it in Idaho. And so we purposely have states on each end of the spectrum, right? So unfortunately, Idaho, Indiana, and Kentucky see the things that we will then see in Alaska, but we have Washington and Hawaii, so we know the future that we want. And so we work together to make sure that we can protect each other as much as possible. So that is why. Yeah, so most people know us as our health centers, which is great because that's our whole thing. But we are actually 3 departments. And so we have our health centers, which are about 112 years old. I should know that, I work there. But you know, after 100, I stopped counting, kind of like after 40, I was like, I don't know. So I know how old I am. And then we have our education department, which is the largest provider of sex education in the nation. Not just to students, but also to families, communities throughout all ages, and helping to facilitate discussions. And then about 30 years ago, when it became apparent that the culture wars were not going anywhere, we created advocates, which my job is to make sure that our health centers and our education departments can not only continue their services, but expand them. So no pressure over here at advocates. As I just said, abortion access in most states has ceased to exist or functionally. So even when we say, right, a 6-week ban or exceptions, those aren't real. Like, let's just be honest. If you look at the data, even states that have exceptions for rape, incest, you almost can never find a single case where someone could access an abortion because of those exemptions. It requires a police report. Which if you are the victim of incest are probably not going to make. Most assaults are by people that you know, so less likely to report them. And then there's currently, we found in Idaho, I believe, there's about an 8-month wait for a police report once you make one, which is not really helpful when you're trying to seek abortion care. So those exemptions aren't real. Don't let anyone ever tell you that anything except having actual access is what you deserve and what we should be doing. However, in Alaska, we have the constitutional, it's funny to say, the constitutional right, both because of our right to privacy, but also because of our the equality aspects of our Constitution. And our state Supreme Court has upheld that time and time again. It is absolutely a constitutional right here, but that also does not mean that it was ever equal access. People off the road system, you know, differing insurance, which is something we can talk about, how they're always coming after Medicaid. So basically saying if you don't have wealth, then you don't have the same access by not requiring insurance companies. Those things currently are not what's happening, but they are always the way that they're trying to whittle away at abortion access. So in an effort to understand that, like, you probably heard like Roe was like the floor, never the ceiling, right? Like legal access was never enough if we weren't actually providing like the resources to pay for that care, the resources to get to that care. Over 50% of people who access an abortion already have at least one child. So that means having childcare while you go and get that abortion, right? For the recovery time, especially in Alaska, when you think of rural Alaska, it costs, we recently finally, like, we're able to have someone look into it. And if you live in rural Alaska, the actual cost to access the abortion, not pay for the abortion, is around $3,500. Between flights, childcare, lost wages, right? You're assuming that someone is not an hourly worker, that they have paid medical leave, that, you know, is a ballot measure that's possibly coming up, by the way, to make sure that even hourly workers have paid medical leave. So really the barriers to that care, it's never been equal, even though it's been legally accessible for those with means to access it. So to address that, here in Alaska, we have a court case that has a stay, which means we have actually been able to provide this care. So in order to receive a medication abortion, the statute, like basically, there's a line. It's like intimidating with people who know that. But basically, like there's like the Constitution and the law, and then there's like all the really confusing ways that government controls insurance and how doctors provide care. And so basically what they said was, even though medication abortion is safer than Tylenol, a doctor couldn't just prescribe it. They had to literally hand it to you. So you couldn't go to a pharmacy and get it. A nurse practitioner, right, who can give you, like a nurse, right, who when you're in a hospital and the doctor prescribes you something and then the nurse hands it to you and you take it. They said that medication abortion had to be handed by a doctor. We in Alaska, not only at Planned Parenthood, but in most places, don't have enough doctors. So what that meant was someone might come to the Planned Parenthood in Anchorage on the day when that doctor was in Fairbanks, and then would have to come back like 3-4 a week later to have that doctor hand them that medication. And we said that that was a violation of equal protection and of privacy, and completely unnecessary and punitive only for medication abortion. So we have a stay in that case. So for the past year, we have been able to have our advanced nurse practitioners hand that medication that's been prescribed. So now people can access medication abortion at our 3 healthcare centers 5 days a week. So that is a huge advancement to access. We also, because of the Biden administration, are hoping to eventually be able to mail medication abortion to patients in rural Alaska. Because right now the only way to access an abortion is to come to Anchorage, Fairbanks, or Juneau to a Planned Parenthood, even to be handed the medication abortion, not just for an inpatient procedure, which is a incredible burden on anyone outside of those hubs, but then also experiencing interpartner violence, right? Like maybe you work a swing shift. I mean, there's just so many reasons why people can't get to a doctor's office. And abortion is extremely time sensitive, and so need to be able to provide that care. We don't have a legal barrier to that right now, but we have a logistical barrier, which is finding a pharmacy that can mail it fast enough to rural Alaska as people need it. And I am committed to figuring that out, even if it means we become a pharmacy, which my boss is like, stop telling people you're gonna do that. And I was like, well, I will, if that's what we need to do. But then even with that, right, like planes get grounded, mail doesn't go to rural Alaska, you know, every day of the week. There's just lots of barriers to care here in Alaska, and we're working to get them as much as we can. But we have other wins too, right? So the expansion of maybe having to wait a week to having access to medication abortion 5 days a week in those 3 locations is huge, right? Like that's life-changing for a lot of people to be able to walk in and get the care they need when that's the care that them and their doctor have decided. We also got a postpartum Medicaid expansion, which it's so funny to me when like Alaska like loves federal government money, but then also sometimes they're like, we're just not gonna take it. So the Biden administration offered to cover the cost of expanding postpartum Medicaid care. So previously in Alaska, if you gave birth and were on Medicaid, they covered 1 month after of your medical care, especially given, you know, the rates not only of Black maternal mortality, but Indigenous maternal mortality. It's unacceptable. No one should be dying because of lack of insurance coverage in the state of Alaska after giving birth. So we helped to write and pass an expansion of that. So now in the state of Alaska, and they ended up giving us more than we asked for. So actually in the state of Alaska, if instead of 100%, right, like Medicaid's for if you're low income, they said if you are within 225% of low income status, according to the federal government, then you can get this. It's an entire year. It covers anyone who was pregnant. So if you were pregnant and accessed an abortion, miscarried, or gave birth, you get a year of care through Medicaid. It also covers, which when I learned this, as someone whose mother worked literally till going in labor with all of us, before Medicaid only counted if you were that poor before you gave birth. which typically you stop going to work after having a baby. And that's usually when you fall into poverty and under the poverty line, according to the federal government. And previous, it didn't matter. You had to be qualified before you gave birth. And so now, if at any point you fall into that income bracket, you qualify for this coverage and then can get Medicaid. So another great win. And then I will talk about our proactive legislation, and one of them is very topical. So we have, predating me, so I think 9 to 11 years, have been trying to pass a 12 months of birth control bill, is what we call it. So talking about access, so right now, a doctor can prescribe you any amount that makes sense for you of a oral contraception, right? Like prescription. So maybe they're like, we're gonna try 3 months, we're gonna try 6. You've been on this for 20 years. I'm gonna write you a year's prescription. Currently in the state of Alaska, there's a loophole. Medicaid only covers 1 month at a time, and the largest insurance provider in the state only covers 3. So to give you an example of what that means in real life, I used to live in Cantwell. I started going through perimenopause, which also, hot flashes, I learned, is another fun patriarchal misnomer for tiny panic attacks that make you think you're gonna die. So I didn't know what was going on until one day I was driving and I was like, I'm acting just like my sister. And then I was like, oh shit, I'm acting just like my sister. I was like, my family goes through menopause early. And so I was living in Cantwell, I was working construction. You do not have days off in the summer in Cantwell working construction. If the ground's thawed, you're working. I got an appointment at Planned Parenthood, drove up, talked to the doctor. She was wonderful. As so many things in Alaska healthcare, she was like, what you need is a compound pharmacy, but there isn't one. So what we're gonna do is prescribe you oral contraception to try to get your hormone levels manageable. So it wasn't even the best thing, it's just what I could have. Drove to the Fred Meyer, went to get my prescription, and when they told me since I was on Medicaid I could only get a month, I just started sobbing. I was like, I can't drive here, like I can't get here. Like, and I didn't work at Planned Parenthood, but I was me, and I was like, this is BS. I was like, there is no reason medically that you won't give this to me. And so I was lucky that I had, honestly, Carl, the best man. My construction boss, Carl, was the nicest man I've ever worked for. But I shouldn't have had to tell him, but I told him. He gave me the day off, but every day at the end of the month, I had to drive to Fairbanks, and I did the math, and I lost $1,300 in wages and gas costs that my male coworkers did not have, simply because of this insurance loophole. So, and I was lucky because I had a car. If I was not on the road system, like I wouldn't have had an option. So we know that 30% of unintended pregnancies are because someone missed having their contraception, and it reduces the rate for abortion access by 47%. And when you look at off the road system, those numbers just go up. So access to birth control is directly related to helping this equity access to abortion in rural Alaska. And the bill got brought to the floor. I'm gonna take a second to pump up our team. In the Alaska legislature, it is controlled by Republicans on both sides. When you get a bill introduced, if it gets 4 committee members, that's the majority telling you they're killing your bill. We got 4 committees. We passed it through 3, all controlled by Republicans, and we got the majority to remove the final one because they agreed that it was punitive and meant to punish us. We were told that if we got 22 votes on our chit sheet, so the chit sheet is like you go around and people sign and say they promise to vote for it. The House majority and Rep. Johnson said, I will bring it to the floor if you get 22. We got it through everything in 1 year. We got 22. He said, never mind, you need 25. So we got 25. And we got the Republican House member from Wasilla to co-sponsor the bill. It was brought to the floor the last day of last session, and a week ago he sent it back. He said he will refuse to hear it. So if anybody feels like getting feisty, then I can give you some action items. We did everything that he asked, and he is reneging on that promise of a bill that has wide support. Idaho, I don't know if you've heard, not great. They passed this bill yesterday. So, because Idaho is one of ours. So if Idaho can pass it out of their house, then there's absolutely no reason why Alaska shouldn't. It has complete support in the Senate. They said as soon as it gets transferred to them, they'll pass it. So this is a huge win. It will help people, and so we're really hoping to get it passed. Our other priorities are also LGBTQ equality. In addition to providing abortion care, we are the only statewide provider of gender affirming care. As an organization, they are now equal in our tenets of protection. They are vital life-saving care that we provide, and they are under attack legislatively across the nation. And so they are equal tenets now of our advocacy that we fight and support. And then also sex ed. So we finally introduced a sex ed bill last year, which was wild to me coming from somewhere else. I was like, what do you mean for the first time ever? But that's true. Because right now, Anchorage, Juneau have sex ed, but everyone in this state deserves to have the same level of education on how to take care of their body. And to pump up my team, because I am from Fairbanks. Well, not from Fairbanks, but I always said that if we invested in Fairbanks, that the elected officials of Fairbanks did not represent what I knew Fairbanks to be. And in the last election cycle, we flipped the Fairbanks Assembly to pro-reproductive health, and we flipped the Fairbanks School Board. And Fairbanks is gonna have fully inclusive sex ed for the first time ever. The night they won, the first thing they said when they won, we're bringing sex ed to Fairbanks. They didn't hide behind it. They're not doing it in secret. They ran on it unapologetically. And now Fairbanks is gonna have it. So I'm very, very excited. Yeah, and now I know you guys always have really great questions. I wanna give you time to ask questions. Yeah. I appreciate you giving deference to him. He's not gonna. No, that is great. We do not receive any of that funding. I mean, and the answer to that is really bleak. Like, this state does not have services. Like, and that is no disrespect to the amazing, like, nonprofit organizations and other state organizations that are doing everything they can with almost nothing. But it is a huge problem in this state. When it, we are the state with the highest rates of sexual assault, highest rates of intimate partner violence, and there is almost no support networks available for people in those situations. And coming from Fairbanks, there is no place in Fairbanks for people who are trying to figure out and navigate what to do and how to care for themselves after a sexual assault or a rape. There's nothing. There is no 1-800 number that's local. They're only national. And so it is unfortunate. And then also those organizations don't have C4 advocacy branches like we do. They're just trying to be direct service providers and provide that work. And so I don't have a hopeful answer. Like, they are just constantly underfunded, and the small amount of state funding just continues to get whittled away and taken away. I know that didn't really answer your question, I'm sorry. Or kind of, it's really personally disheartening, because we provide medical care, but so often people come to us for that medical care, and then they're like, where do I go for all this other care that I need? And there's just not enough resources. The governor's budget is just, honestly, it's trying to bankrupt this state, like, morally, ethically, and emotionally. in my opinion. I feel like Planned Parenthood would stand by that as well, right? Taking away all education funding. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, like a couple years ago, right? His huge budget cuts. We were the only state in the nation without an arts council, but he also completely cut elder care funding. He completely cut early child care funding from the entire state. You know, so yeah. Next question. Keep my Dunleavy opinions at a, not a minimum, but acceptable. That is a, we don't provide because of HIPAA location data, but we do provide statewide data. And so I want to, I'm just going to be really honest with you. The number that I just looked up was all of our states. So all 6 states was 14,000. I haven't seen just for Alaska, but I will tell you the reason right now we're looking statewide is because of so many people crossing state lines. So, or sorry, not statewide, but affiliate-wide is because what we are trying to track right now is how many people are crossing state lines and how is that affecting. And so the rate of abortion has not gone down post-Roe. The same amount of people are accessing an abortion, which is why we're trying to figure out how we can make an assumption about then how many people are crossing state lines, but we're trying to truly tease out that number. But I can tell you, which is HIPAA approved, is that every single one of our access states has had people come from out of state, from non-access states. So Washington, Hawaii, and Alaska, which is wild to think that people are flying to Alaska because that is the closest appointment for them time-wise. So also on that logistics, the other reason we're thinking of it that way and not state is switching our appointment model. And so making sure that Alaska, Hawaii, and Washington have more abortion appointments to cover that load. But then also trying to talk, in Washington is a lot easier with health departments, right? And be like, can you take some of STI testing? You know, can we funnel some patients to you for sooner appointments? But in Alaska, that's not always a huge possibility. I mean, we do in Anchorage, Juneau, and Fairbanks work with the health departments. Obviously, they are healthcare organizations, but it's just a different landscape. You know, we're also the only provider of gender-affirming care outside of Anchorage, so we cannot send those patients other places. So prioritizing in our schedules those 2 services that only we provide. But the number has not gone down. I hope that. Yeah. It already did. We are awaiting, it went in November, and we are awaiting a decision. Yeah. And you know a lot more about this than me, but I know that we did, and then they requested things from everyone, so we got those things in. So, and it's 6 months from then to get a decision. And before we thought it'd be about 3 months, but now since so much was requested, we think it might be closer to that 6-month mark. But since we got the stay, we are extremely optimistic. In the weeds on that, we've had 2 ways that we were suing. No, I'm not a liar. Like 2 arguments we were making. One we felt was very solid given the Alaska Constitution, and the other we were hoping would help our other states by allowing a legal foothold that applied to places outside of Alaska that didn't have as strong of a constitutional protection as us. So we're hopeful that both arguments will be found as solid, but pretty confident that at least the Alaska specific one will. Well, I mean, but we're gonna, if we legally are allowed to, we're gonna continue to provide that care regardless of how our Attorney General personally feels about anything. Oh, well, okay, so that's great. Yes, so there's lots of court cases. So this one is very Alaska specific about just nurses and advanced nurse practitioners like providing a prescribed medication. I'm glad you said that, yes, because there are lots of other court cases. So one is that completely manufactured. So, right, like there's one judge that our last president put in Texas, the way that Texas court system is, or judicial system is like, there's just that one judge. So if you file a case in his district, eventually it goes to him, right? Whereas here, there's like a system where you pull different judges, there's like multiple judges for areas. Texas has, I mean, respect to their ability to just completely mess with democracy. So they've got one judge in this district, and they brought a case completely falsely claiming that mifepristone, the drug in medication abortion, was falsely certified by the FDA, which was just not the case. Everything was done appropriately. It's been around for 30 years, right? There's tons of data to show that it is in fact completely safe. And so that case is moving to the Supreme Court. And so potentially could remove mifepristone, so medication abortion, across the nation, which is a really want to bring the point home, because a lot of people here are like, but we're in an access state. They will never rest until there is no access. And them removing mifepristone is their way to reach into access states, even though they said this is a states' rights issue, and remove access. Over 50% of abortions are medication abortions. If they can remove medication abortion across the nation, then that is another mechanism for power and control. Because also, this has never been about abortion. It has always been about power and control, right? If you can force people who can get pregnant into carrying those pregnancies to term, then you can control their life decisions, you know, from before they get pregnant till after, right? And that has always been what it's about. It's always been about going after the margins, right? They want abortion, now they're coming after trans kids, right? Like they have a game plan, and it is not a secret. You can go on the Alliance Defending Freedom's website, and they put it there. Those are the people who are behind every bit of money for every one of these horrible things. And the next thing they're coming for after trans kids is birth control. They are, yeah. Yeah, because that's easy, because effectively there's none. There are always our fun friends on the far right, who will not be named, who put in a bunch of bills, but the Senate, which is also wild, so the Senate is like reasonable, and although they are not on paper pro-reproductive health, they have made an agreement where they will not engage in the culture war. And so nothing will pass the Senate. They have guaranteed that. Nothing anti-reproductive health, nothing anti-abortion, nothing anti-trans, none of that will pass the Senate. So that's great. Yes and no. The caveat is that they don't believe that LGBTQ equality is a culture war issue. It is a right that Alaskans deserve. So if we can get it to the Senate, but it won't get there, it's not going anywhere. Sarah Vance has killed LGBTQ equality. It will not, while she is in the House of Representatives, pass. Yeah.
So I noticed that just last year,
Yeah.
the policy restricting access for sex assigned birth relevant gender identity. I know that there is a coalition of nonprofits that were looking at working on this issue, but there's also a policy restricting banning some trans girls from sports, girl sports. So, and then there was more activity on that issue. What is Planned Parenthood do about those issues right now?
that is our focus. That is where the past 4 years our legislative energy besides 12 months has been. So SB 140, last legislative session, was the anti-trans bill that Shelley Hughes just would not let die. We took the lead on that, and I was just meeting with the new director of identity, and I was like, you know what? Every once in a while, I'm just gonna take credit. So SB 140, we got over 187 hours of testimony against that as Planned Parenthood with 2 minutes a person during the iteration of that bill trying to pass. People waited on hold for 5 hours until midnight to give their 2 minutes of testimony. We ratioed them 9-1 against that anti-trans bill, and it is dead, 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 dead. Shelley Hughes tried again this year, and the majority was like, absolutely not. Like, and I want to say to this Alaska community, from being genderqueer and working on stuff years ago, like, not only did allies show up as a verb and hold on the line for 5 hours, the phone lines went down. Not a software. It got so hot, the server broke in the Capitol. IT had to bring a new one in, and people still waited 2 hours, called back, and then waited on the line for their time. But every single person that called in spoke about trans kids with dignity and respect, and that was so meaningful to me. And I know other people in the community. Like, I will be honest with you, before those hearings, I wake up and cry, because I don't think I shouldn't show emotion, but my job in that moment is to hold others. And I realized that I don't need to do that anymore, because I'm not going to hear my allies show up and harm me just as much. And that was so wonderful. And so we defeated that. Dunleavy couldn't take it. So then that's when he brought it to Deed. Deed punted it to the ASAA. So I made it my mission. I flew across the state and went to every single ASAA pre-meeting to figure out how that organization worked. They decided not to pass it, so kicked it back to Deed. Deed, which is like the early childhood and development, like a state board. Every single person on there has been appointed by Dunleavy, and they have no accountability to the people. They are appointed, he put them there. So effectively, we actually do now, even though overwhelmingly Alaskans didn't want a trans youth sports ban, have one, which is devastating, especially in a state where we've only had maybe one. Well, we have one that we know of, and maybe 2 transgender athletes in this state. And both of their coaches and teammates said, we don't care. So it's completely manufactured again, like around the most vulnerable kids in our state. No, we're letting the ACLU take that lead. So I love Mike Garvey over the ACLU, talk pretty much every day. And so they also have been doing community organizing in the Matsu, and we have been doing that with them as well, but letting them take the lead since, well, 1, they got a grant to do it and we didn't, and then 2, since they were always intending to bring lawsuits, it made more sense for them to be making those community connections. But the Matsu is the next place in the state that I hope to start organizing in, because there are people there that deserve to be represented and heard. So just very, very active in all of these anti-trans. So then 105, which is the Don't Be Gay bill that Sarah Vance won't let die, I can happily let you guys know is dead. She scheduled it for a hearing, but failed to tell the bill sponsor, which is Dunleavy. And when you hear a bill, you have to have the sponsor come and talk about it. And then you're supposed to have invited testimony, and she didn't actually tell anyone that she put on the thing. And so now they're mad, and they were like, we're never showing up. So there's that. But if it does move, then we will absolutely let people know. And it's not okay for them to grandstand and use trans kids and queer kids as talking points, but also like just really want all LGBTQ youth to know that the Senate will not pass it. It will not become law. Doesn't mean it's okay that the grownups are using you and scaring you, but it will not become law. So Oh, well, it could be lots of things. Medically, it'd be 8 probably. Yeah.
What's the range of effectiveness for microparasite if you get it at 4 weeks?
Oh.
I was 8.
Yeah, no, because it is extremely confusing. I love that you bring that up. Yeah, because it's like they do pregnancy from the date of your last period. So you could have gotten pregnant like 4 weeks after that, but it's still the date of your last period. That is also how deciding your gestational age for which kinds of abortion you can access. However, now since we have sonograms, et cetera, we can pinpoint that. So, you know, like if it's actually not that, then we look and we actually measure the fetus, and then that gives us a gestational age, which allows for us to give you your options. So in Alaska, there's no constitutional, like legal barrier to when you access care, but there is because of other reasons. So medication abortion is up to 10 weeks. That is safe. And then you can get an in-clinic procedure. We actually keep being able to increase this given the ability for us to provide more training to our clinicians. And so I believe that right now we are at, I want to say between 24 and 26 weeks. So, yeah.
Did you want to tell everyone about the letter that Planned Parenthood wrote confirmation to the Fourth Circuit?
Yeah, well, I mean, I also feel like you know a lot more about her than I do. Nicole Berner is an amazing, hopefully judge soon, and lawyer who used to work for our national office here at Planned Parenthood and has fought for so many rights over her career. And I honestly, she wasn't confirmed yet though, right? I didn't just. Okay, I was about to, I've had a lot going on. So, but for the Fourth Circuit court, and just really hoping that she, like, it's just like, it's really refreshing when someone's just like wildly qualified for the job they've been nominated for, which shouldn't necessarily be the case, but in 2024, that's kind of where we're at. Yeah, she was the plaintiff, right, in the case in Israel winning same-sex adoption rights for parents in Israel. I'm spacing on all the cases that she won here in America, but like they're all just like wildly impressive. So very hopeful that she would get there, and very happy to be able. We wrote one as our affiliate, and our national office also wrote a letter. And I did in fact call Senator Murkowski. I was like, hi, send you this letter. So hopefully we'll see. Writing a letter is like the least that I can do. Cool. Any other questions? I hope that was helpful. Please feel free to, yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Rose. That was impressive. And it sounds like I need to bring ACLU over here to talk to us next. So I'll get working on that. And that'll be really nice. Okay. Well, anyway, so back to our prayer books. We definitely need to do a little praying after hearing about that, that's for sure. All right, we're moving to the Elenu on page 587. When you arrive there, I invite you to stand with me. Turn to page 591. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Love each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity, and cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai v'melech al kol ha'aretz v'yom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. We now turn to the Mourner's Kaddish, which you can find on page 598 of your prayer books. We're thinking about these yard sites this week. Aaron Arnovitz, Gertrude Friedman, Fred Glazer, Max Greenstein, Samuel Koenig, Jean Martin, Elizabeth Robinson, David Silverman, and Joseph Zallinger. If there's someone who you are mourning for this Shabbat, please feel free to say their names out loud or in your hearts. Zikunom Livracha, let memory be for a blessing. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'ilmad yivra chayotev yamlik malchuteh, b'chayechon uvyamechon uv'chayedechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mebarak le'olam u'lomei almaya, yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yipromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitoleh v'yitolal s'mei kudusha barichu, Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'miran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'akol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'akol Yisrael v'imru, amen. The Lord creates harmony on high, bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, amen. You may be seated. Okay, I'm inviting Roy up here to offer us our announcements.
All right, good evening. So services and other activities, we have Shabbat evening services every Friday evening at 6 p.m. and special services on our second Friday starting around 7:15-ish. And sometimes extra special services. So thank you again, Rose. Let's see, Shabbat morning services and Torah study start every Saturday morning at 10:30 and they run till 11:45 or noon. Is there a Zoomed activity tomorrow?
Yeah, Torah Uncensored.
Torah Uncensored, with special guest star. Yes, special guest star, Rabbi Abram, Torah Uncensored in our Zoom room at 12:30. Then we have 2 weekday morning minions, one over Zoom on Wednesdays and one here in person on Thursday mornings. And on Thursday mornings, some of us go over to Kava Pancake House and enjoy breakfast together. And some of us, when we miss the Thursday morning minion meeting, nonetheless go over to Kava Pancakes and enjoy Kava Pancakes. Religious school is on Sundays, 9:30 for the Hebrew classes and 10 o'clock for Shabbat Time Machine, trademark. I mentioned the Torah Uncensored program. That's every second Saturday. So yes, tomorrow and then the next will be 9th of March. Let's see. We have Judaism 101 on third Saturdays of the month. So that'll be a week from tomorrow. That's at 9 a.m. in our Zoom room. And every month on the third Wednesday, we have the Board of Trustees meeting. 7 p.m. It's live in the synagogue library and also Zoomed. And all CBS members are always invited and very welcome and encouraged to attend that. There's a special activity that we're participating with organized by Christians for Equality, and the Interfaith Council of Alaska is also participating with, holding a vigil for those who have died in Anchorage for being unhoused this winter. And that will be March 30th at 1 p.m. Downtown at First United Methodist Church. All are invited to come and light a candle. And don't forget, we're only a few months away from summer, and CBS's third annual camp out, again at Trail River Campground near Seward. And the dates, the real dates, not the ones I said last week, the real dates are July 18th through 21st. So contact Cheryl Imbriani if you would like to sign up, and have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
We're going to now conclude with our Misha Berach, our prayer for healing, which you can find on page 371 of our prayer book. Of course, we're thinking about members of our own community that are in need of healing, who are Ross Rumack, Frank Eroskin, Haley Goodstein, Bob Goodstein, Alex Bortnick, Peter Gibbs, Hannah Dietrich, and Louis Bees. And in light of Repro Shabbat, we're thinking about everyone else who's in need of reproductive health care. And if something else that you are thinking of who's in need of healing, please feel free to say their names out loud or in your hearts. Misheberach Avotenu Mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Please join us for some grape juice or wine and challah in the multi-purpose room. And get some help with the challah and grape juice, that would be great too.